You are still forcing friendships that expired years ago because you are too scared to admit you have outgrown them. You keep calling it loyalty, but sometimes it is just fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of accepting that the person who knew the old you may not belong in the life you are building. See, nobody really prepares us for the loneliness that can come with growing. We talk about growth like it's always exciting. You become wiser, you become more disciplined, you start thinking differently, you become more intentional about your life. But nobody tells you that sometimes growth changes your relationship too. For me, I think sometimes we all have to accept that not everyone we started with is going to finish with us. And that does not always mean someone is bad. Sometimes you simply grow in different ways, different directions. The things you used to talk about don't interest you anymore. The places you used to go don't feel right anymore. The conversations that once excited you now leave you feeling empty. And slowly you begin to realize that something has changed. You have changed. And maybe they have changed too, just in a different direction. I think that is one of the hardest things about growing. Sometimes you don't lose people because they were or there was a big fight. You lose them because the connection is no longer the same. The friendship becomes forced. The conversations become difficult. The effort becomes one-sided. And you keep trying to bring back something that naturally ended. See, sometimes we hold on to friendship because of history. After everything we have been through, we have known each other for years. That's my person. But history is not always a reason to stay. Sometimes someone can have a beautiful place in your past and still not have a place in your future, and that is okay. I think we need to stop believing that every friendship has to last forever to have been real. Some friendships are for a season, some are for a chapter, some are there to teach you something, some are there to help you through a difficult period. And some will stay for the rest of your life. But not every person you love is meant to walk every mile with you. And accepting that can be painful because sometimes you don't just miss the person, you miss who you were when you were with them. You miss the memories, the jokes, the late night conversations, the version of life you shared. And you begin to wonder how two people who were once so close can become strangers. But that is life. People grow, people change, people discover themselves. And sometimes the person you were 5 years ago would have been best friends with someone you no longer recognize today. And that is not necessarily a tragedy. Maybe it's a proof that you have outgrown or you have grown. Sometimes you have to stop feeling guilty for becoming a different person. You are allowed to change your values. You are allowed to want something different. You are allowed to become more private. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to stop participating in conversations that don't align with who you are becoming. You are allowed to want deeper friendships. Okay? You are allowed to outgrow environment that no longer serve you. And you don't have to apologize for that. But here is something else nobody tells you or talks to you about. When you start growing, you may become lonely before you find your new people. And that's the part that scares many of us because the old friends are no longer a fit, but the new friendships have not yet arrived yet. So you are stuck in the middle, too changed to go back, not yet connected enough to feel at home, somewhere new. And that season can feel incredibly lonely. But don't rush back to people simply because you are uncomfortable being alone. Don't return to an old version of yourself just because you are afraid of the silence that comes with becoming someone new. Sometimes loneliness is a space where you learn who you are without the influence of everyone around you. And maybe that is necessary because if you are always surrounded by people, you may never discover what you actually want. You may never hear your own thoughts. You may never realize how much of your personality was shaped by the people you were trying to fit in with. So sometimes losing friends gives you something too. It gives you space. Space to think, space to grow, space to rebuild, space to meet yourself again. And Eventually, you may meet people who fit the person you have become. People who don't need you to shrink. People who don't make you feel guilty for having boundaries. People who celebrate your growth instead of competing with it. People who can have difficult conversations without destroying the friendship. People who genuinely want to see you win. And when you find those people, you will understand why some friendship had to end. Because sometimes you were holding on to people who were only familiar, not necessarily right for you. And I think that is something we all need to learn. Familiarity is not the same as compatibility. History is not the same as connection. And knowing someone for a long time does not automatically mean they belong in your future. So if you are losing friends as you grow, don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. Ask yourself, are we growing apart or are we simply growing differently? Is this friendship still healthy? Can I be myself here? Do we still respect each other? Is the effort mutual? Because sometimes a friendship can survive growth. The right people can grow with you. They can evolve alongside with you. They can celebrate your changes. They can challenge you in healthy ways. And if a friendship is truly meant to continue, growth does not have to destroy it. But if you have to become smaller to keep someone comfortable, then maybe you are not losing a friend. Maybe you are finally letting go of a friendship that no longer fits. So, if you are in a season where you are losing friends, don't panic. Don't chase everyone who walks away. Don't beg people to understand the person you are becoming. And don't return to a version of yourself that you have already outgrown just because you are lonely. Some people will leave, some people will stay, some people will surprise you, and some people will meet you will meet later will feel like they have known you forever. So trust the process, because sometimes losing friends is not the end of your social life. Sometimes it's the beginning of finding people who actually fit the life you are building. And maybe one day you will look back and realize you don't lose everyone as you grow. You simply stopped forcing people to stay where they no longer belonged.